Hey everyone, welcome back to season 2, episode 5 of the WuhooPoints podcast series. This is where we kind of understand different credit card strategies from different experts and people go all along their credit card journey. I've been in this for over 10 years now, and I realize a lot of my guests have also been in the credit card space for a decade or more. But I have a special guest, Stephanie, here. We met all the way back in elementary school, and I've kind of helped her start this credit card journey, but now she's taken on to her own. And that's something I want you guys to kind of pay attention to, listen to, and see where you can be in a year. But enough of me talking. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself, kind of share maybe a great trip you've taken using credit card points?
Sure. I'm Stephanie. I currently live in Bellevue, Washington, which is near Seattle. And me and my husband just recently cashed in all of our credit card points from the weddings and like all the massive expenses that we had last year. So we got married last year. And so we want to take advantage of a big spending and really want to take advantage of the sign-on bonuses. So one of the trips that we have upcoming that we cashed in our million credit card points on is an Asia trip to Beijing, Chongqing, and Bali, Indonesia.
That's a lot.
Um, yeah, so I'm really excited for that. It's going to be later on this year. And if you want, I can show you the numbers and walk you through the spreadsheet.
Yeah. No, so when we talked beforehand, you were talking about this spreadsheet. We're definitely going to go through that. It'd be really helpful, I think, for anyone watching trying to track and make sure their points are being used. But let's start a little bit more at the beginning. Let's say when you first got your credit card, what did you really know about credit cards, and how did that lead you to all this points and churning stuff and getting to know all these new terms?
Sure. So I've used credit cards all my life. I think my parents really they taught me about credit cards growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we never took on credit card debt, it was a way to get quote unquote free money for using the cashback credit cards. So I think that's the main thing when getting into the credit card game is just like knowing that you personally, no financial advisor here, but you don't want to be taking on a lot of credit card debt, or else there's going to be kind of no point to this credit card game. So first things first, like pay your stuff in full, and try to take advantage of these credit card companies in a sense to maximize your value on these credit card deals. So
Mm-hmm.
we were team cashback before, but after seeing what Matthew posted online about his Maldives trip, I really wanted to lay flat on an airplane, honestly. And I was like, well, I'm not going to be spending $10,000 on an airplane ticket because that's a hefty expense. That's like a wedding venue right there. But I just really wanted to, I guess, maybe have my cake and eat it too in some senses.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked Matt, I was like, hey, how can I lay flat on the airplane for cheap or like really like low expenses? And that's how he walked me through the credit card churning journey.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're gonna be able to have experience that piece. And then again, back to that tool. So I think overall, like what has been helpful to advance in your credit card journey? Obviously, I've given you a couple pieces of advice, but you've taken it again to your own. You and your husband both have taken it. What are some helpful tools or habits that you've built to again get you those points, get you those trips?
Yes. Matthew, obviously a great asset. But one of the strategies that we have taken on is this taking advantage of the sign-on bonuses. And that's how we have gotten to our million credit card points. So what we did is we first opened a Chase Inc. credit card. Anything but the Premier is what Matt recommended. So we opened up a Chase Inc. credit card, and me and my husband. So I think it's really important to have a partner one and a partner two in this case, or that's how you can be able to compound your points. So what I did is I opened up a Inc. credit card, and then once we hit the spending limit on that, then that's when I would refer my partner Chris. Then he would spend that credit card, and then he would add me as an employee card sometimes to try to quickly rack up those that minimum spending, and then we would just like do that back and forth. So once he gets his credit card points, that's not a bonus, then he would refer me, I would refer him, and so forth. And so that's how we easily racked up a million credit card points.
That's awesome. Yeah, because the ink is the free ones are 75,000 points. The ink preferred when you guys were doing it was 100,000 points, I believe.
Mhm.
Plus the referral was I think 20,000. So with each card you're getting six figure it's in points at least. So
Yes. Yep.
that's a lot. It can build up very quickly.
Yep. And
Um,
I wanted to
mhm.
add too that the sign-on bonuses would have to matches the spending that we were doing that quarter or like the first 3 months, because oftentimes the spending minimum is like 4,000 in 3 months or 6,000 in 3 months, or the hefty one that we did was the Amex Platinum,
Mhm.
which was, I think, oh my God, was it 15,000 in 3 months or something? But no, it was like 20,000 in like 2 months, something like really ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
And
a lot.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so what we did is like we budgeted out, okay, what are we going to be spending on this year? Okay, we know we're going to get a venue, we know we're going to be spending X amount, and so therefore we got the platinum because we knew that already we are going to be spending that amount of money. So what I would like to, if I were to give any 2 cents of my own from our own credit card journey, is that you want to find the credit card that meets your minimum spending for those 3 months. So you're not going to be scrambling, trying to spend 20,000 in the 3 months when you weren't planning on already spending those 20,000, or just like finding the credit card that basically fits your needs.
Yeah. I want to reemphasize that. I know you gave your 2 cents. I just want to say it again, right? The Amex Platinum, Business Platinum is great. You get a lot of points, some benefits. But as Stephanie was saying, if I have to figure out how to spend 20K, I have to spend more things than I normally wouldn't. That's bad. You're spending way extra money. So as Stephanie exactly pointed out, she had these upcoming expenses, 20K, 10K, whatever it is. And then, okay, I know what card can fit that. So I know you literally just said that, but I want to reemphasize again.
Yeah.
That's how we think about it. Credit cards should be fitting into our lifestyle, not making us spend more money. Because then, what's
Right.
the point of the points?
So maybe I want to like add on another example here. So after the wedding, we haven't spent that much money. So we've just gone back to, so the Amex Platinum was really much an edge case where it was just like a one-time deal. We're not going to be doing that again. That's ridiculous. But right now we're like doing so far we're spending on the Alaska Airlines business card, and then we're going to continue probably looking into the Hyatt credit cards, just because we have already spent a ton of the Chase Inc. credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we're like back to normal spending. We're back to like the sign-on bonuses where they're saying it's like $6,000 for 3 months and so forth.
Yeah, awesome. So we've talked a lot about getting points, but you know what's more exciting and a bigger flex? Actually using those points. So you already shared about the trip upcoming, but would love to kind of see your spreadsheet. If you could share
Sure.
all these different trips you're doing or have done, the redemptions, and then kind of tell me about how is this tracker useful? Again in your credit card journey.
Okay, sure. Let me share my screen. Okay, so here you can see in the column A on the left here, you see the
Mhm.
line items followed by the number of points that we use, followed by the amount, the out-of-pocket expense, the cash value of the points, the cost per point, the number of nights that we're staying, and then finally like the total number of points. So I think what is important to note here is the total number of points used, and then the total cash value, followed by the grand total spend and grand total saved.
Yeah, that's a lot of
So
money saved.
it is, yes. So overall, if we're going to start at a high level here, we spent around 900,000 points for a total cash value of 16,000, which led us to a total cash per point of 184%. So effectively, if we think about most of our credit card points, especially the Chase ones, are one-to-one. We beat that by around 80%. So pretty proud of that. We only spent $10,000 out of pocket. However, the total amount of the we probably saved more than 50% on this trip, given that the grand total saved was around 17,000. So saved a lot of money. The total trip would have been around like 28,000, and here we are only spending like around $10,000.
Yeah.
If you want to go by, I'll highlight some of the line items here. We did try to save on our credit card points a little bit by flying economy on the way over there. So that's why you see 4 people and there's out-of-pocket expense. That's economy spent that out of pocket. But one thing that we were pretty proud of here is this line item here for the 2 business class flights from Bangkok to Vancouver back home. And that is we found a deal that would allow us to spend 385,000 points for a cash per point of 175%. So we cashed on that. Really excited to lay flat on Singapore Airlines.
Yeah. How did you find that redemption?
Yes. So we looked at several websites. We looked at Singapore Air to make sure like what is the out-of-pocket expense, and then what is the and then what was the cash value of the points. And then we were just like stalking the website like a hawk to see like what would be the points, what would be the deal, because they were doing a promotion at that time. So we're like looking at that and trying to find, it was like almost like day trading in a sense where you're like looking at the flight and trying to see like when it would go down in points. We also used points.me, and then sometimes we would we'd obviously follow WuhooPoints and try to see if Matt is posting any promotions that he found, or any of the other websites. The Points Guy is also a good resource. And I think the Daily Drop is also a good resource that we use to research these credit card points and what to do with them. So those are the number of resources that we've used. I don't know, Matt, if you can.
No, that's helpful. And I think thinking about someone that has maybe built up a couple, 100,000 points or so from a couple different credit cards, they want to travel, they want to do something like what you've done. What are some, but they're afraid, they like don't know where to start, they don't want to mess up their points. What are some kind of encouraging words that you have for them as they try to redeem their points for good value?
Yes. I'll admit, like, I think I relied on Matt. So kudos to him. Great resource there. I asked him, is this a good redemption? Is this a bad redemption? And he really helped me with that. And I think for me, it started out like we weren't going to like, just randomly use our points. We're going to use them wisely. We first did like very small trips here and there. So we do like staycations where we weren't as scared of using our points because those are lower point values. So I think starting small really helps, and then building up to the courage to actually cash in on like a whole like 900,000 points. So that helps. I think the second thing is like sometimes there's a return policy on these flights and these hotels. So having that in your back pocket could help in terms of helping you relieve some of that stress when it comes to redeeming credit card points.
Yeah, no, I really like those 2 points, because a lot of people, they have 100,000 points, but then they have to transfer 90% of them to do this business class flight. And that is nerve wracking. So I like what you said, where you transferred a couple points to Hyatt, few thousand. So if something messes up, it's all good. So I like the starting slow. That might be something I recommend to my clients from now on. And the second thing about refundability is key, right? When you buy a basic economy flight in cash, you're screwed if you want to change it or whatnot, get a refund. But for refundable economy, or now with points, right, we have a little bit more flexibility. I can book all these Hyatts and then just cancel them before that cancellation date and then get all my points back. So I think that's a really cool piece about points. Anything else you want to share about or highlight in this spreadsheet?
Yes. So these line items right here, the Uluwatu, Ubud, Bali, Andaz Bali, we really we were stalking the Hyatt website, and I think the Hyatt website, when it comes to chase points, is really useful. So that's why we were like all in on Hyatt. You can see here, there's Hyatt Regency here. And then you have all these Hyatt properties right here. So here we found that it was a really good redemption rate using our Hyatt points, where you can see the cost per point was 172%. So we got effectively 172% return on our points. And I think that was also key, because you can see here that the cash value was if you see in the bottom right hand corner, the sum is $1,500 for like, that's no cheap expense. And this is about 2 weeks. So I think we really got our costs down to a fairly minimum given how like what the resort is going to look like. If you look these up, they're very luxurious properties.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but when my wife and I travel and we save all our money on the flight and hotel, we can then spend more of our money on the food that we really
Correct.
like. So
Yes, that's the key. I think like for me, I think maybe backtracking a little bit, the reason why I also want to get into credit card points is because I love traveling. And traveling is very expensive hobby, like probably the most expensive hobby that I'll probably ever have. And not only did I want to lie flat on an airplane and have that bragging right, but also want to get like good rest on an airplane. But also wanted to travel a lot. And because like me and my husband like wanted to be budget conscious and we just spent money on a wedding. We wanted to be like a little bit mindful of our spending, and what we thought would be a good idea to minimize that travel spending budget
yeah.
was to use credit card points. So that's so I'm really happy that we've kept our traveling to our maximum, but also kept our traveling spending to a minimum.
Awesome. Cool. So in this past year and a half, what are some differences you've seen in your finances? You talked a little bit travels or just general life since utilizing credit card points. Like, tell me before Stephanie and after Stephanie.
Yes. Okay. So before Stephanie was very anxious about money, I think, and I, this is a little bit more about my childhood. Grew up in a pretty privileged area. Belleville's pretty rich. But I think because of that, like I wanted to keep on that lifestyle, but like want to be also very frugal. So there's a lot of spending anxiety that me and my husband have because we make a decent amount, but it doesn't go far at all in the Seattle area. If you know about the Seattle area at all, it doesn't go far at all. So we constantly feel very poor. So we're always like thinking how like I guess you could say that we have a very poor person's mindset when it comes to spending money. We
Yeah.
don't want to spend
I
money.
think that comes from the Asian, culture too.
Yes, yeah, it does. And like there's a lot of things that like we think that we make like the amount of money that we spend in our lives is probably like around half the amount we actually make. So we save a lot and we have a lot of like we have a lot of money anxiety. I've talked to my friends about it and they're like, Steph, you really should work on this. Like this is not good for your mental health. So uh and so now that we have credit card points, we have like literally 1 million, and well now we don't, but now that we like redeemed it, but we have a lot of credit card points. So now that has helped us lessen our financial anxiety now that we can like basically spend like all we want on the travel budget. And so that leads us, like as what you just said about spending more money on food. Now we spend more money on food because
it's all under the same travel budget, that we
exactly
right?
So like now the budget is like decreased, therefore it allocates more budget to like other things, such as instead of spending $10,000 a year on travel, because now we've redeemed that in credit card points, that value in credit card points, now we can use that $10,000 to save up for maybe like a future kid, or like to put more in our 401k, or like just enjoying ourselves on a daily basis and thinking less about money, really.
Yeah, without just eating beans and rice every day, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, precisely.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. And then if you could go back in time, you're now after Stephanie. If you could tell something to before Stephanie, what would it be?
I think this is really cliche. Probably a lot of your interviews have been the same, but could have gotten to the credit card points a lot sooner. I didn't know about this until I guess I didn't think of it as much of a reality until I saw Matt's blog, because I would see like the daily drop, I would see the points guy, and I'm like, that is very much fiction, like that they do this for a living. So like I guess maybe it's like if I felt like that there's not somebody who like I knew personally who got into it and has successfully redeemed their points. But because I personally knew Matt, so therefore I'm like, okay, like I can actually talk to him like a real human being. Like he shared the same struggles we do. Like we share like I would say that we like at least based on Matt's blog post and the way he talks, like it's very much very down to earth, and I really resonate with that. So just I think maybe just getting into the credit card game sooner, finding someone who you relate with a lot can really help you like walk you through this whole credit card training journey.
Again, thank you for the kind words, and you're exactly the guest I wanted to bring on top. Not for the compliments, but to show that you are a real person, just a everyday. No, everyone's special, but you know what I'm saying. You're not a points guy. You're not a big company. You're just someone working and living the American dream, and then being able to redeem these points. So I'm glad for your testimonial. And then the journey's not over. What are some things you're still trying to figure out, struggling with in the credit card points world, trying to figure out, just again to show some if there's any transparency you can show there?
Yes. In terms of the whole credit card game thing, I think just what I want to know is like how I can lay flat on airplanes all the time. So like trying to really redeem like those business cards, because I will admit that was like I think this is because our first time redeeming like such large points. So maybe it was a bit stressful. Like it was me and my husband, we were like it like literally kept us up at night trying to whether we should redeem on these points. Like, okay, is this a good deal? Is this like is this not a good deal? And like we kind of wrecked our brains doing that. So I think that the more we develop that muscle on redeeming points, I think that it would be better. And then the more that we can actually relax and be like, okay, we can actually like this is actually a pretty good deal to find like a business class ticket, or just being more, I don't want to say liberal, but also maybe not being as anxious with our credit card points as we should be. And then also that's one thing. The second thing is the annual fees on the credit cards, to make sure that those are still providing value for us. We spent around $2,000 in the credit card memberships last year, and I mean, based on the spreadsheet, like that has provided us dividends. But now like we want to make sure that we continue to make sure that we have a good return on our investment when it comes to those credit card fees.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing those 2 points. I think my last question is, again, for the people watching, anything else that you haven't shared yet or want to repeat that it's good for them to know, whether they're just starting with the credit card points journey, whether they're halfway through or very experienced? What's one thing you really want to leave with people?
I think there's not really one thing.
You don't have to do it. If you have a couple of things, it's fine.
Okay, so one is make sure you don't have debt on your credit card points. Like there's no, like that kind of defeats the whole purpose of your credit card points. If you have debt, you're probably going to be ending up spending, like interest on that debt to live this luxurious lifestyle, and that actually defeats the whole like value system of the credit card points, because you're living
20-30%
a luxurious life that you seriously cannot afford. Two, kind of on that note, like make sure that your credit cards are aligned with your lifestyle. So like Matt said about like the Amex Gold, for example, there's a lot of benefits on the Amex Gold that you may or may not use. Like, do you use DoorDash a lot? Maybe, like for us, we don't use DoorDash at all. And so that those credits are useless. Do we buy stuff on Dell.com? Not really. So like, maybe those benefits are not really aligned to us. So find the credit card that aligns with your spending habits and what you're going to be using for your benefits. Number three, do your research on like the cost per point. If you are beating, I would say overall, like speaking, it depends, but overall speaking, if you are beating like, 1 point, if you have a cash per point redemption of like, or not redemption, but if you are getting value of it of like over 1.2, I would say is pretty good, then you're Gucci. I think four, I can't emphasize this enough really, is that this really it really levitated my finance, like the anxiety that I had about finances. Now that this entire travel bucket is basically almost eliminated, then that way I can allocate that money to things that I wouldn't have spent in the first place. So it's really taking a whole load off in terms of my mental health.
Oh, that's awesome. I feel like we should have started with those 4 points and went through all the. We kind of did, but I really appreciate the summary of all of that. But Stephanie, thank you again so much for your time. Thank you.